Morning, everybody. I'm debt-free Joel, and here's your weekly update on politics, stocks, and debt management. As always, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and forward this to anyone who thinks or you think that may find it helpful. So today I wanted to start off with stocks, for two reasons. One, it's been on everybody's mind, and two, since my last update didn't include anything on stocks, I figured that would be a good way to start. And what a week it's been. Um, Everybody's been talking about GameStop and the fighting of hedge funds and shorting stocks and all that kind of stuff. So what I'll do is I'll put a link to the video that I put out discussing about GameStop and discussing what the hell's going on with there. It's probably going to be here. No, it's not going to be here. It's going to be here. But what's actually going on like after this, right? So there's going to be, hopefully, well, not hopefully, but there's going to be investigations on why there were certain trading platforms, for example, such as Robinhood, that prevented people from trading it this week. And you've seen a lot of conspiracy theories happen. Oh, it's just the hedge funds calling them and telling them not to do it. And you see a bunch of things online that are getting a little out of hand here. Here's what really happened. You had a surge of people who came in that were asking to buy the stock. And when you buy a stock, you have to understand it takes a while for the actual transaction to occur. So what a company does is they front the money with the clearing firm so that they can purchase your stock, on your behalf to get a quicker trade. And then they'll clear the trade later, right, by taking your money out. What happened was there was such a surge that kicked in by purchasing GameStop that they could not maintain that level of volume for that day. This is why you saw articles about GameStop raising $1 billion so that they're able to do this. Now, people won't say that, right? They're going to say it's a conspiracy theory and, here come the hedge funds and blah, 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 blah. But that's what happened, right? What happened was they didn't have the money to actually be able to do it, so they actually started to stop individual investors from buying the stock. So where's this going to go? With the individual investors, the amateur investors who've been starting, they're probably going to start pushing back against any stock that's going to be shorted because they think that a play could be made where, you start to push hedge funds out of short squeezes for a quick pop. That's what this is all about. It's not like, we're sticking it to the man. People just want their money fast. That's literally what this is all about. So think about any brick and mortar stores. Think about like places like Macy's, for example, where nobody goes into. Think about airlines, which are really suffering. Think about like REITs, maybe, all these other type of stocks that haven't been doing well for 2020. Those could be buying opportunities for you folks that like to do the pump and dump. But my advice is to stay away. That's not what we're here for. That's not really trying to build wealth as black people. That's just, kind of running to the next, best thing. What you want is to be able to invest your money over time. There are a ton of better stocks that you could be buying and holding on to and allowing your sanity to be normal. But if you're into that business of jumping from stock to stock, you could be looking at opportunities in other stocks that are heavily shorted and getting in front of them now, so that when people start to run around and push up these stocks, you'll be in a position to do it. I personally don't think you should, but you're not going to listen to me anyway. In the world of politics, President Biden has signed up to 40 executive orders. I think this is the most executive orders any president has done within like the first 100 days or how many days he's been president. So he's done everything on healthcare, environment, the economy. But there's something that's important, I think, is we need to stress, right? An executive order is not law, right? And that's the problem, right? When you think about a law that needs to be passed, it has to go through both houses of Congress, and if it's divided, you have to come to some sort of agreement and, gerrymandering and kind of figuring out who's who and what's what and trying to figure out what's the best way to approach the bill. And then it has to go for votes, and then after it goes for votes, it actually has to go to the president, and then when the president signs it, that's when it's a law. The problem with executive orders is that even though it's not a law, it's going to be enforced as one, but it's temporary, right? So the next president can come in and just do executive orders to get rid of everything you just did. What's the problem with that? Well, look what happened under President Obama. When Obama left, President Trump came in, did a bunch of executive orders that started wiping away what President Obama did. And if you're a President Trump fan, all Biden did was come in and start wiping away all the executive orders that he did. So you're going to have this like up and down nonsense that's going to be moving. And if you've seen the trajectory of executive orders over time, what you're noticing is that this is happening more in our politics because passing bills through Congress has become more and more toxic. That's concerning. So all these things that President Biden came in saying that he wanted to do, it's a highly unlikely he's actually going to be able to do it because of just the trend of how only things can be done through executive orders and they're not going to last. And passing bills is not something that people like to do anymore. It's too controversial. It kind of pins you to things. So it's going to be interesting to see, but he is trying to do it via executive order. But, let's see how that affects the next 10 years. The other thing in politics is President Trump being impeached again. And the trial is set for February 9th. So my opinion is that you need, 17 senators, Republican senators, to convict him. It's not going to happen. In fact, if you look at just how the landscape is going, President Biden, in my personal opinion, doesn't even want this to happen because it takes away from his agenda for the first 100 days, right? It takes the attention away from what his administration wants to do for the American people during COVID. And if you've been watching TV, if you've been watching the news, what I told you guys before is happening. President Biden is going to be a boring president. It just is what it is. It's going to be boring. Right? It's not going to be a bunch of scandals and things running around. So if you notice, the news is always focusing on Trump every single time you turn it on, especially the progressive channels, right? MSNBC, CNN, NBC, ABC, they always focus on Trump because that's what keeps your eyes on the channel. So it's going to feel bigger than what it is, but he's not going to get convicted. And why is that important? Because they're doing this because they don't want him to run again. So if they're able to impeach him, right, which they're going to be able to impeach him, but if they're not able to convict him, then he can run again in 4 years. And that's what they're scared of. So like I mentioned to you guys last week, Donald Trump's not going nowhere. His movement isn't going nowhere. And in fact, if you look over time, presidents always get a bump up in their approval ratings. So no matter how much you hate him now, the fact is that 5 years from now, people probably won't hate him as much. You don't believe me? Just look what happened with George Bush. After 9/11, after Katrina, after the housing crash, everybody hated his guts. He had one of the lowest approval ratings. And then now you watch people, sending pictures and memes of him being really close to Michelle Obama. How often we change our perception, right? How often that we look at things. So, expect the same thing to happen to Trump. I'm not saying you're going to like it. I'm just saying the people around you may. In terms of debt, the federal student loan forbearance, right? I think you guys are well aware of it. You have the forbearance now for federal student loans all the way until September 30th, which is great. My advice is that if you have the ability to keep paying down that student loan, please do. This does not apply to private loans, but that doesn't mean you can't call up your private loan company and ask to see if they can work something out with you, especially under a Democratic administration. You can start to see people hopefully laxing some of the rules and working with folks. But just because your student loan has been or is in forbearance doesn't mean that you're not paying down the debt still, right? This is an opportunity for you to pay down the debt. This is an opportunity for you to save money if you don't have 6 months of expenses saved up. But what this is not an opportunity for you is to start buying a bunch of things you don't need, right? Remember, money is about behavior. So if you're not using the federal loan money to something constructive that's going to build your net worth, then you're just wasting this opportunity. So either pay down the debt or save your money. Don't take the money and start investing it in the market if you don't have 3 to 6 months of expenses. Nobody likes when I say it, but that's the truth. And the last thing I'll bring up is this. We're coming towards the end of January. And I think it's important for folks to really start to put pen to paper and figure out what your net worth is, right? Start keeping track of your net worth. To me, your net worth is the truest representation of what your financial wealth is, right? I can care less about what your stocks did. I can care less about how much you saved. I want to know what your assets minus your liabilities are. That's the truest representation of wealth. And for a lot of us, especially as black people, it's negative. See, no one likes to talk about that. It's a negative net worth. And it's going to be negative for a while until you do something about it. There's a lot of people, when they die, their net worth is negative, but you think they had a lot. So start to calculate your net worth, and what you'll realize is that you need to build up your assets. You need to be saving, you need to be paying down your debt, you need to be cutting on your expenses, and try to flip your net worth to a positive number and then push on from there. So it's the end of the month. Start to do it. If you're in a couple with somebody, do it. If you're in a relationship, do it. Do it with that person. Put it on paper. Try to see where you guys are and where you guys want to go, and go from there. So as always, I appreciate you guys watching the video. Like I said before, feel free to subscribe to the channel or send this off to a bunch of folks that may need it. And as always, just remember that a part of all that you earn is yours to keep. I'll see you next time, guys.